If you're agender, are you also trans? Let's talk about it. So as you know, or maybe you don't know and you're learning this for the first time, I am agender. I came out as non-binary, agender, I think 2 years ago on Trans Day of Visibility. And it is one of the identities that I inhabit in my life. One of the questions that I get a lot about being agender is, if you are agender, are you also trans? And so I wanted to address that question in this video, clear some things up, and approach it from a couple of different angles. But a good place to start is to just define agender. Let's talk about what being agender is. Agender is a gender identity that exists on the spectrum of all the gender identities that describes people who do not connect to a specific gender. Basically, for agender people, their gender is none thanks. So agender people may be people who just simply do not connect or relate or understand themselves in any of the binary genders. Other non-binary gender identity terms don't describe their experience of gender. Agender people may also just not really connect the idea of gender, the concept of gender, to themselves. They just don't sort of get gender, and gender is not something that they are living and feeling. Agender folks can also just feel like it's all just a big mystery, and agender just becomes the most succinct way to sort of understand how they are moving through the world in a gendered way. So in a nutshell, agender means that you are not identifying with any other kind of binary or non-binary gender. Agender, no gender. As we know, for all of the other gender identity labels, gender identity does not equal gender expression. So a person who identifies as a gender will not necessarily adhere to a specific kind of gendered expression. So you can't really assume because someone is agender, they're going to look a certain way. Agender people may choose a more masculine presentation. Agender people may choose a more feminine presentation. Some may create some sort of a blend of the two, favor androgyny. But there's nothing that is really specific. There's not an agender look. And important to note here that if someone does adopt a more traditionally masculine or feminine look and is agender, that doesn't mean that their agenderness is fake. This is something I get all the time because I look like I do. One's gender identity is a thing that they inhabit in an interior way, and their expression is just what is comfortable for them. Because someone doesn't look agender to you doesn't mean that their agender identity is fake. If someone says they're agender, believe them. So to start talking about whether being agender is trans or not, it's best to sort of lay down a definition of what is trans then? What does trans encompass? In a sort of common way, we sort of think of transgender as being describing an experience of someone who is moving from one gender and transitioning into another gender. Typically, this common understanding is they're moving from man to woman, woman to man. Because binary gender is such the prevalent understanding of gender in our culture, we tend to think in a monolithic way that transgender means you're moving from one of the binary genders to the other. That is not a complete or correct understanding of transgender. Although transgender has gone through a lot of definitional evolution over time, the way that we understand transgender experience now is that you are transgender if you are moving from the gender you were assigned at birth to some other gender expression. Maybe that is moving from the one binary you were assigned at birth to the other binary, or from your binary gender assigned at birth to some non-binary gender experience, which would also include agender. So a broad metaphor to think about transgender the way we understand it now, if you think of gender as a map, the dot that you live in, that you were assigned at birth, that location that you were given at birth, if at any point you move from that dot to some other dot on the gender map, if you're moving away from it at all, that's transgender. You're moving away from the original spot. You are having a transgender experience. So this is true for agender people. Agender people are all assigned a binary gender at birth. So that's our starting point. For example, I was assigned male at birth. That is the understanding I was handed at birth. as to my life, particularly in this later part of my adulthood, I am understanding that that original assignment was not exactly correct. It's not how I live and not how I feel about myself and my lived experience. So I have moved from that original understanding, that original assignment, to agender, to a different assignment. So at its basis, being agender is being trans. Now, I could stop the video here because that does answer the question, is agender a trans experience? The answer is yes, but I want to tack on two nuances here that I think are really important. And the nuances are things that I think they hang me up as an agender person on my place in the trans community. And I know that it also is a hang up for other people as well. The first of those nuances is, well, so agender is a trans experience, but do I have to call myself trans? There are a number of agender people I know who feel very uncomfortable with calling themselves trans because of just sort of how they feel about their own experience, but also how their experience connects to the other experiences within the trans community. There's some discomfort there in saying that my experience is trans. You can talk about being agender as a trans experience, but as with other identity terms, you don't have to pick up that language unless that language specifically works for you. Even within a gender experience, there can be a lot of diversity. My experience is an agender experience, but it is not one that will necessarily contain any kind of social or medical transition. But that's not true for other agender folks. There are some agender folks that look to forms of gender affirming care or forms of social transition in order to more fully live comfortably their gender expression. So our lived experiences across the agender spectrum are varied and can change. And those variations can sort of pop up in the world in different kinds of ways. So some agender people may feel more comfortable calling their experience a trans experience because they are connecting it to the more common trans experiences that we see in the media and in the world and that are more visible. Other trans folks may feel less comfortable but using the word trans. They may feel like they're like confiscating language, which they aren't confiscating language, but if they don't feel comfortable using that language, it's cool that they don't. I think the important takeaway here is that as an agender person, you can choose to use that language if you want. If it doesn't, that's okay too. It doesn't change the fact that your agender experience is still considered a trans experience. The second nuance here is that, yes, agender is part of the trans community and can be considered a trans experience, but remember, not all trans experiences are equal. In this current moment when trans people are under so much direct attack, threat of violence in this country, it is very important for us to recognize that while everyone may be collected under a label trans and everyone is part of one big community, not everyone in that community is experiencing that big umbrella label the same way. And it is incredibly important for any of us at any place in that trans community to recognize where people are having the most violence directed at them, who are targeted the most, who is experiencing the most harm, and understanding and elevating and helping that area without centering yourself if you're not the ones directly under attack. I'm very conscious as an agender person that theoretically, I am living a trans experience. I am comfortable thinking about my agender experience as a trans experience, but I am not going to be the one centering myself in conversations about trans people being under attack in America because while I'm trans, my experience is not the one people are going after. I am perceived by other people as a cis male person. I am not seeking out gender affirming care. So I'm not going to be the one that is going to be pointed out in a bathroom. So I am living a trans experience that is not being directly threatened at this point. It is not my place to take center stage and make it all about me. Instead, I should use that position to raise up other trans voices, support trans people where I can. Like you go and protect the people of your community that are under the most sort of stress. It doesn't take away your membership in a community. You are just recognizing where need is, where care is needed, and you go there and you provide that care. Important to also include here that all that is doubly true because I am a white person. So for people who are Black, who are Indigenous, who are Latinx, other people of color, their trans experiences are infinitely more complicated and infinitely more dangerous than mine is. So it is important then to like throw the attention there, do what one can from where they are to focus on the ones that need help the most. None of that takes away from your essential trans experience. None of that makes your agender experience fake. You are just knowing where you fit into the larger picture. I hope to do more quick videos like this answering some agender questions so that producing more agender content. I feel like it's a piece of my larger project that I don't pay as much attention to, so I'm going to try to be fixing that here. If you like this video, let me know in the comments other questions you may have about being agender that you would like me to answer in videos like this. Also just comment, because it helps spread the word, right? As always, my friends, I'm glad you're here. A big thank you to my Patreon subscribers. These awesome folks help keep ASTAT advice going. So if you like this video and the other work I do, why not join us? Patrons get bonus content, discounts on digital workshops, access to the ASTAT book club, and more. The link is in the description.